The pride, passion, and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Finebaum Show, Hour 3 podcast.
This might be college football heaven.
Are back, and what an afternoon it has been, and what a night it was Wednesday in Columbia, Missouri. Have you seen what happened during the game and then immediately after the game?
Hey, please do not rush the court.
Wow, Dennis Gates.
Please do not rush the
Dennis Gates is on the mic saying, "Don't rush the court."
It costs a lot of money these days doing university.
Yeah.
What a ball game.
Wow.
Well, Dennis Gates, the head coach of the University of Missouri. Coach, good to see you. By the way, great move, but you upstaged your biggest win of the year, and one of the biggest wins of the year. So we'll talk about what happened at the end there, but congratulations, and I know it feels great to have another big win this year.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Paul. Obviously, I've been around you before at the SEC meetings in the summer, as well as our beginning of the year in Birmingham. So I definitely appreciate being on your platform and obviously talking about Missouri basketball.
Well, thank you. Listen, you've done a great deal at Missouri already, but this season it's night and day, and for a lot of reasons it is different. But describe this journey, which is a long way from being over.
Well, right now, I just think, when you start a process of getting a group of guys together at the beginning of June, you don't know what to expect except for the words that you pour into them coming into fruition and reality at a certain point in time. And that's what we're doing right now. We're executing the plan that we laid out with our sports psychologist, Dr. Joe Carr, team building, and obviously with John Oliver, JKO Solutions. We're just putting it all together in addition to our staff. And we got a group of men that love each other in that locker room, I can tell you that.
I want to drill down on that for a second, Coach, because there's so much to be talked about. But I hear that word love, and sometimes it's easy to be cynical. But you mentioned the psychologists, you mentioned the people you work with. Put all that into perspective for us, because there's such cynicism out there of college athletes, and you're doing a pretty good job of diffusing that right here.
So John Oliver, I kind of work with individually as a professional development coach, and obviously he teaches me how my personality can pour into a group and also the leadership aspect of it. So as an assistant coach at Florida State, he was that person that I leaned on for that professional development, right? As it relates to leading young men in a certain way. Add the sports psychologist part of Dr. Joe Carr. Dr. Carr has been with me since I was 18 years old at the University of California. Ben Braun hired him to come in. And at that point, I told him, hey, when I become a head coach, I want you to work with my teams. And come Cleveland State job, he was the first person I told I had the job just simply because I knew he had to clear his busy schedule because he's pulled in several directions. And then also here at Missouri. So day one, we kind of put these things together on paper with our staff included. I draw out that plan and we just execute it along the way. And there's several stops between Dr. Joe Carr and John Oliver that they'll make consistently throughout the season. How does that play into our team? It plays this way. These guys are the stewards that carry out the vision that I've had as a leader, as a head coach. And obviously our assistants are there to make sure to monitor and make sure we hit in certain benchmarks and checkpoints. We have internal captains that also work toward it. Caleb Grill, Jeremy Sanchez, and Tamar Bates. And those guys do a great job of leading from a peer standpoint, but also our players are doing a great job allowing those guys to lead and pushing everything forward.
So, I mean, it's not easy. In addition to that, they have to go out there and play really great basketball, which they've done countless times. So, I mean, I know there's no method to that conversation, but it's intriguing, though, that you're getting it right.
So I'll tell you this, Palm, all of that is spaced with our 8 core values of friendship, love, accountability, trust, discipline, unselfishness, enthusiasm, and toughness. And at that point, we that's the filter we want to sift everything through. And obviously, you got to have the talent. And obviously, we have a staff that does that first and foremost with our offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, our associate head coach, Charlton Young. We have pieces in place from the standpoint that specializes in certain areas that'll put it all together. Like, for instance, Kyle Smith-Peters, he's in charge of rebounding. Ryan Sharbaugh and Kyle Smith-Peters in charge of defense. Offense is Matt Klein and Rob Summers, our offensive coordinator. So we have all these pieces that we put together, and it almost is a system that we've put in place so we won't spread ourselves too thin, so we can monitor it the right way. And the recruiting part is on all of our shoulders. And we identify a group of young men. First, the ones that return, player development. Secondly, we identified a group of freshmen. They were the top 3 class in high school basketball. And obviously, the kids in the portal, they was a top 10 portal class. And we're excited that they chose the University of Missouri.
You know, we showed last year to this year, but the previous year was so good. I know that it's mind-boggling sometimes when, and there are a lot of reasons why things go up and down. But when you go through a season like last, you know it's going to get better. But how do you internally survive it as well as your team?
Well, personally, you know, you got to have a work-life balance. And don't get me wrong, when you walk into the home and you have a beautiful family, that's one thing that I kind of make sure I leave work at work, and at home it's dad and husband time. So I appreciate the support of our family, my family, and what they've been able to do for me during that time. I have a mentor in Leonard Hamilton who went through an 0-18 season at at University of Miami, and he's just now retiring from Florida State. So I didn't know why at the time, Paul, that he would tell me these stories when I was his graduate assistant or even an assistant for him for 9-10 years. But he would tell me different renditions of it. Some coaches mentor young coaches through success, the number of trophies they have, or even the nets they've cut down, or even the confetti, right? Coach used a transparent moment to fully invest in me, and that's what I'm appreciative of, because he talked about one of his worst seasons that really taught him the most about himself, and obviously had him moving in the right direction. And I just thank our staff. I thank our leadership, our President Moon Choi, for the amount of support he gave to our program during that time, our stakeholders, our boosters, donors, and our alumni who always supported, and our board of curators. So I appreciate what they poured into us during that time, but also what they poured into us as we move forward with our vision. And obviously, as the Witten family head men's basketball coach, I'm just thankful to be able to be in the position we are now.
You've had so many benchmarks this season, so we get to the end of the game, and you know it's video that's being shown everywhere in the country today because it says so much. Take us back to that moment in time.
Well, the moment in time is regarding telling the fans, or asking the fans, not telling them, asking them to not rush the court. We want to make sure we maximize the safety of our student athletes out there, both our Missouri student athletes as well as our opponents, and in that case, University of Alabama, because certainly some things can happen. And obviously the safety of our students coming from those bleachers, things can sometimes happen. So I just ask, because obviously the SEC rule, you'll get fined a certain amount. We've already gotten fined for the University of Kansas success that we had, and they rushed the floor. I'm just thankful that thousands and thousands of students allowed me to give them some information, and they just followed the lead on that. And I'm thankful that no one got hurt, and obviously we didn't get fined.
No, and because you don't. I mean, there's a lot of good places for that money, as you said. When you win a game like that, and you've won a number this year. You're so close to March. You're playing really good basketball. I mean, I know you don't want to temper it, but so how do you make this turn over these next couple of weeks as we get ready for SEC and then March Madness?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, we got to stay healthy as a team. And usually at this juncture, you see teams, faltering that way. You want to stay healthy. You want to stay from any hurt, harm, danger. You want to continue to get better. I truly believe we have not peaked out yet. We have great basketball ahead of us, and our players have fallen in love with the process of preparation, but also player development. They have done a great job strength and conditioning. Our strength and conditioning coach, Sean Conity, has done a great job. Our athletic trainer, Chris Perrin, has done a great job. So it's all hands on deck in addition to our players who I say love each other, but it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to see it. These guys genuinely love each other and they want to do it with each other. And that's the most important part that you have in this long season, because teams have been together and going at this thing since June, and they can very well start to fracture because they've just been sitting in the same locker room, same gym, same bus, same plane, same hotel for a duration of time. So our guys, and we have a unique way of doing things, keeping it fresh, and obviously allowing them to get to know the best of each other and know that person to their left and right. And there's no other people they would rather do it with than the ones they are currently protecting on and off the court.
Such a great conversation and such a great message. Coach, it's always good to see you. Thanks for making time for us. Congratulations, and keep it going.
Thanks, Paul. MIZ.
You bet. Great to have you on. What an amazing guy. And just that message, it's so powerful. Let's take a short break, get your reaction to all of that. More to come right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
We are back. What a couple of fantastic guests we have had today. Chris is up next.
Hey, Paul.
Hey,
that was
Chris.
a couple of good guests and a couple of good callers, too, Paul. I'm going to tell you, man, the hour number 4 is kind of hot. It was hot, Paul. But I'm going to say it like this today, Paul. It's a cold beer, hot liquor top of Thursday, Paul. Rough day at work, Paul. Rough day at work. Hell, it's a rough day in the country, Paul. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I was listening to you on the I-Man conversation, man. That was a great conversation.
Thank you.
And y'all made some good points. And I agreed on majority of what y'all said. Matter of fact, I agreed on everything y'all said. And I'm speaking for 10 schools. 10 schools. Not just for Clemson. 10 schools. We just want the same opportunity. The same opportunity. If that's the rules we're going to play by, if that's the rules how we going to get, why is the SEC and the Big 12, the Big 10, why are they always trying to get every advantage they can by manipulating the rules before the snap of the ball? They already the baddest conference they say they are. If the SEC is that good, Paul, why are they being bullies? Let's play by the same rules and let these teams come out on into the both conferences. Let's go and play big boy football. That's the direction we're going. Have a nice day, Paul.
Thank you very much. Johnny B is up next.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for taking my call. Apparently, hanging on the back of that garbage truck's done froze Chris's brain. This is hour 3. Hour 4 will be after this. And you just quit complaining and trying to be in the SEC. You stuck over there at Auburn Junior, and that's the only place you're going to ever be. And put that duct tape over your mouth like I told you. And shut up and quit calling in. I got something to say about this Coach Gates. He said all the right things, Paul. He said safety and money, and at the after the game thing, he did all the right answers. But watching that game, it kind of stunned me that the game just stopped and he said that. But after he said that, the way he turned, he took a big breath and he was smiling and he said, it looked like he was saying, this is our expectation. This is not some fluke where we storm the court. It's like, this is why I came here. This is what I want to do. Let's learn that this is what we're going to do. And he might not say that, but, he sure did look like that last night. And I'm proud of the dude. I think that was a heck of a game, and congratulations to him. And what we're seeing is, for years, the SEC dominated in football. So other teams, Ohio State and Michigan, if you were wanting to be good, you had to mimic the SEC and find speed, defense, a good field general quarterback that used his talent around him. And that was the formula to success. And in basketball, we weren't. And when Sankey came, now you can see who's following the formula of a stalwart big man, unselfish team that plays defense and hits free throws. And the cream's starting to rise, and I hate to say it, but Alabama just don't have that formula right now. It's fun to watch when they're hot, but I don't see them having the components right now to go all the way. Do you with that team?
Well said. Thank you, Johnny. Great to hear from you. And Jace is up next in Augusta.
Hey, Paul, did you hear what happened with Carson Beck last night?
I did not.
he got his Lamborghini and his Mercedes stolen last night.
Really?
In South Florida. So I guess karma's a bitch. Now I want to address what John said about Legend being an ex-con. John, you're fixing to be a con, so don't throw rocks when you live in a glass house, brother.
That's true.
I mean, come on. I mean, Legend paid his debt to society, and that stands on its own. But John's going to get his day in court, and he still hasn't told us exactly what he did in Durango.
Well, I think he claims that the judge has asked him not to, but that sounds like plea bargaining to me.
Right. It sounds that way to me too. And I'm like, with Jim hiding behind a tweet, he didn't have enough balls to call back into the show.
No, I mean, Jim's smarmy behavior speaks for himself. That's why the show has officially moved on from him.
And it's a lot better too, Paul. It really is.
Oh yeah, no, because I mean, he was just so unbalanced. I mean, I did everything I could to help him. I enabled him. I propped him up. I complimented him because I know that's necessary for his ego and state of mind. And ultimately, it's over. Thanks for the call, Jace. Brad is up next in the Zoom. Hello, Brad.
How you doing today, brother?
We are doing great.
Loved your interview with Michael Bratt, man. Used to not like him too much. He used to bang on Georgia all the time. But everything he pretty much said turned out to be true, so I give him props. But what he said was true about adding that one extra SEC game. And who better to beat up on than your own brethren? And we love it down here. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to some people today, and this idea of the SEC weekend having 3 or 4 games, what do you make out of that?
Yeah, right. I mean, you know something, Paul? The more SEC football we can get, the more I love it. That's just the way it is. But our man.
But by the way, though, you may love it, but you remember your coach at the SEC championship game? He was complaining about the schedule, and that schedule is only going to get more difficult with another game.
That's the bad part about it. And the pushback on that. And here's why I tell Kirby, some of these games that you get at the beginning of the season, like Georgia opening up with Clemson, Texas going to Ohio State this year and playing, you won't get those on the front side of the season because they're not going to do it with this extra game, but you'll get them in the playoffs. So you're still going to get quality football. But, yeah, I remember Kirby taking a pot shot at Sankey. That was at the SEC championship game. I saw it. But, hey, Paul, I really need to run something by you because I've been thinking about something. I need your input on this.
I'm here.
All right. You heard the term thrown out there by a politician a few years ago called basket of deplorables. You remember that?
Yeah, that was Hillary Clinton, wasn't it?
It was. How about this? How about bracket of deplorables? Hey, yeah. We put all your worst callers. And I've already got.
I mean, I hate to have to take a variation of a Hillary Clinton quote, but go ahead.
I mean, bracket of deplorables. Let's take your worst of the worst. Let's take your John from St. Louis, you're an embarrassment to the show, John. Good luck on your court case and your cellmate.
Hey, by the way, Brad, what do you? Legend tried to help John the other day.
He did.
And it was good advice, but I've never spent a night in jail, but I imagine, what would you? I think I'm asking everyone over the next week before John goes to jail to maybe give him a tip. What would yours be?
Man, if I were John, I would back up in a corner, and I would sit there and shrivel up and stay balled up like an armadillo. That's what I would do, so nobody could get to me. But I hope his cabin.
You know what I think he ought to do? I had a friend of mine who went to jail, told me this. He said the first day he walked in the mess hall, he just took a swing at the first guy. Just to let everybody know, I'm not afraid of you. I mean, they carried him out to the hospital, but at least he got the message out there that he's not afraid.
That's good advice. You know, he's probably going to get somebody like. Did you see that movie Stir Crazy with Gene Wilder? They put him in there with Bumgarner, and he's doing. They walk in there the next morning, and they're in there playing cards. That's hilarious. But you know something, I got half your bracket made out with John. We got the two clowns from Columbus, Ohio, can be in there. AC ticks you off more than anybody.
No, well,
he's got to be in there.
I mean, you know what ticks me off the most about AC? That I am stupid enough to take his call. Because it's always the same. Yeah. It's not like there's ever anything different.
But see, that's the good thing about you, Paul. You are a man of the people. You will take the call no matter how bad it is. But
I don't even know if he's part of the people.
You know something? Is he a Canadian? Is he Canadian?
He once sent us something from Canada. Originally, he's from New Jersey, which is like being in Canada.
Okay.
Is New Jersey part of the United States?
Hey, Paul, you take care, brother. It's always a pleasure talking with you, man.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. We'll take a short break. We have a long way to go here Thursday afternoon. Stick around.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
We are back, and it's great to have all of you with us. Let's continue. How about Mike up next in Maryland? Hey, Mike.
Hey, Paul. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. There's a lot of static on my phone here. Let me just start off by saying thanks very much for taking my call. First-time caller and great fan of the show and all the callers. Paul, I have a question that I can't seem to find the answer to. In this very different era of college football today, with the transfer portal and the NIL, what exactly are the NCAA rules concerning recruitment of high school football players, and can colleges pay for and accept commitments from high school sophomores and juniors? I think that was the thing.
Mike, let me try to answer it, even though it's going to sound like I'm talking from both sides of my mouth. The rules are pretty much the same. You cannot sign when you're a sophomore. You can only sign you could commit, but you can't sign until December of your final year of eligibility. In terms of paying, the rules are really the same as they've always been. The only issue is that nobody pays attention to the NCAA rules anymore, and they don't have any real enforcement now. There are all kinds of convoluted NIL legislation that where the school doesn't directly. I mean, it's convoluted. It's almost third party, but yeah, the schools can negotiate. The schools can offer. They just make sure that they cover it in a way where it is not a direct pay for play.
I see.
Although it really is.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I'm seeing online today there was an announcement that I think it was Michigan had recruited and has a commitment. At least they think they do, of a junior in high school. You're talking about a 17-year-old kid, maybe 16,
right? Not
17. I mean, you're going right down low at a young age here, and they have, I guess, a pre-commitment or a commitment of that running back for the 26th class.
Yeah, but let me say, none of that matters very much. Commitments are only that. Now, I would say the majority of commitments usually end up, but by the way, Bryce Young, the big quarterback from Michigan, committed to LSU, and then Michigan came in literally at the last second and stole him.
Yeah. exactly right. But anyway, I totally agree with Iman's comments a couple of minutes ago that college football has basically become a game of money as far as recruiting. The big schools like Ohio State and Michigan and Georgia maybe are in an advantageous position, especially with the money that they have compared to a small school. I don't like it, but I understand it.
Well, thank you very, very much for the call, Mike. You be well. You take care of yourself. Jeff is up next from Ohio.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for taking my Zoom call. How are you?
Doing great, Jeff.
Yeah, I have a strong reaction to Dennis Gates' interview. First-class guy. He's running a great program, and West Siders of Cleveland have been, following him with great interest. So best of luck to him for the rest of the season. So, Paul, I'd like to go with his example and not talk about the hockey game itself tonight, but the beginning and the Star Spangled Banner of what happened in the first game against the Canadians with the crowd booing, and of course after that, then the fighting ensuing. I hope that they don't do that tonight in Boston. I don't think it's going to do anybody any good at all. Even if you get 4 or 5 guys to get things going, it would be nice if there were people around people like that, morons, if they would get shut down by people around them. But if they don't, I hope that the players don't react to have a fight. And Paul, I got to tell you that, may God forgive me and the ladies too, but I do love a bare-knuckled fight in a hockey game. But you know why they do that, don't you? You know why they have fighting.
I've had hockey people explain to me that it's more about enforcement than it is fighting.
The skilled players, the other team tries to disrupt and bring down the skilled players' level, and so you have to have protectors, enforcers, to protect those skilled players, whether it's Gretzky in my time, and Steve Yzerman. You had Bob Probert for Steve Yzerman and Marty McSorley for Steve Yzerman, people like that. But that's for later in the game. But to start this game, I hope it doesn't happen, but I do have a plan B. You know what it is?
No, what is it?
Stand by. Do you know what you're familiar with the triple dog dare, right?
Right.
All right. I suggest that when they drop the puck, I triple dog dare both teams to drop the gloves, get on their knees, and put their tongues to the ice. May the team that gets up first off the ice, if they have a man advantage, then they have a power play for the rest of the game or until everybody can get up off the ice. How's that sound?
Thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. We'll take a short break here while I stick my tongue on the ice, and we are coming. Randy, get your tongue off the floor.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
And we are checking in next with Bash. Who's that again? Or John, I'm sorry. John is up next, not Bash. Hey, John.
Hello, Paul. Hey, real quick here. Your previous caller spoke a little bit about the game tonight in Boston, and I think the game's going to be a tremendous game. And I know this is
Hey, John, I think we've exhausted this subject, really. Unless you're offering something new, I'm really about had enough of your calls.
Okay, well, I am offering something new.
Go ahead and do it.
If you would let me talk, I would tell you what it is. It's talk about respect.
Same subject he's had before, isn't it, Randy? Yeah. I mean, there's only so many times you can say the same thing. Let's continue. Mary Jo is up next.
Hey, Paul. I just have to call in since you had that great interview with Coach Gates. I have taught for 40 years. I love teaching, and Coach Gates is what we all call a teacher's teacher. there is so much more to teaching. He is a researcher and a teacher. I've heard him speak about his process, but I was so happy that he shared that much with you, and that's why we all think the world of him, and I respect him so much.
Well, Mary Jo, I agree. I thought it was one of the more unique interviews we've had here in a long time. I mean, instead of just obsessing over how they shut Alabama down, I mean, he gave us the secret sauce to Missouri's success and his success, and he gave the credit to Leonard Hamilton. Robert in Kentucky is next. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Paul. Hey, man. Excellent. He covered it pretty damn good.
He did.
Jeff from Ohio. What the hell do you have him on a cam show for?
Let me. Hey, hold on, Randy. Do you agree with this guy about Jeff from Ohio? Randy said he nodded off during that call. Robert, I think you're on to something.
I heard him speak about his.
Thank you very much. Hey, listen, I mean, we try to give everyone some wiggle room, but Jeff and John have pretty much said the same thing a couple of different times. I mean, we're going to start putting a clock on these Zoom calls. John is up next in North Carolina.
Hi, Paul. This is John in North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
Last couple of years, I've been really following the local newspapers that are now disappearing, and also other newspapers, and part of that being journalism. If you were now back at Tennessee starting off, and you went, would you be going into journalism? Would you be looking at that in terms of the future of print media?
Well, John, print media is essentially dead, and it has been going that way for a very long time. There are still a handful of publications that put out a print product, but most I don't know where you live, but most cities do it, and I've seen them, and I've read them, and most of them are really, the news is so outdated that unless you're reading an opinion or an analysis, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, I know. I'd always look to Sunday to go to the Atlanta Journal, and even that,
John, when I was starting up, I used to go downtown every Sunday to work, but I would stop by the newsstand because the Atlanta Journal was the only newspaper that covered every SEC game.
Exactly.
I happen to live in a city where you can go to a grocery store at noon on Sunday, and the Sunday paper is already there.
Right.
I mean, so
what are you saying? If you were back at UT and you were a freshman, would you be doing that or something else?
I would look to something either digital or broadcast wise, and because I don't think there's really. I mean, there's first of all the idea of a newspaper is almost an antiquated phrase. Even digital is under assault. I have a lot of friends who worked at newspapers and now they work for digital sites. And I talked to one yesterday, and everybody is nervous about what the next cut will bring. So I hate to say this because I spent a lot of time talking with college students on campuses, and I don't want to discourage them, but I would have them choose very wisely.
Right. Well, thanks, Paul. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I hate to say it because it's been my career, and I've had, I mean, not to talk about myself, but I started out in print, saw that was coming under assault, and I went into radio, and then I moved into newspaper. I don't know what to do next, Randy. What do you think? Retire? That's a good suggestion. Vance is up next.
That was a good one.
By the way, you know your career is about over when your best friend tells you it's over, right? And he does it publicly on live television.
Well, that makes him your best friend.
Yeah. Okay, Randy, you could have said that off the air.
So our beloved caller Jeff from Ohio.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, this is the SEC network. I know as much about hockey as I do lacrosse.
It's out of my preview.
Hey Vance, I grew up going to hockey games. I'll watch tonight because it's the best sporting event in the country and the world going on. But I mean, showing up in your Red Wings jersey. We get it, okay?
Well, it almost made me long for Jeff from Columbus.
Yeah, no, I would have taken Jeff from Columbus. I would have begged Jeff from Columbus to call in with his nightly diatribe.
Well, okay. I don't like picking on this man because he's been very classy and he's a rarity from that god awful state.
You're right.
So I got to give him credit for that. But real quick, one of the worst things that's happening with this college football thing is these kids that grow up that want to go to Ohio State. They dreamt of it, dreamt of playing for Alabama, Georgia. The list is infinite. They're getting wiped out by the portal because those count as scholarships too. And I'm like, I think this is another unintended consequence. What is your opinion?
Well, no, you know where it's really happening, Vance. I talk to high school coaches. They can't get their players on a roster anymore because they take fewer and fewer high school kids because they have so many. I mean, they may commit and they may sign them, but their chances of playing, if they're not at the highest level, are very thin. No, and even the walk-on situation. We're about to hit that with this house settlement. The walk-ons are going to be wiped out.
That wipes out a history of wonderful players that have made so good being walk-ons.
And by the way, I was talking to Kirby Smart about this a few months ago. They use those walk-ons on special teams, especially in practice. It's hard to manage without the walk-ons.
Well, what is the 12th man at A&M? They're going
to have to make it the 11th man. We're back after this.
Thank you for listening to the Best of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast. Watch the Paul Finebaum Show weekdays from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network. Plus, you can listen and watch on the ESPN app.